Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast hosted by two comedians who live in New York, neither of whom are in New York right now. I am one of them. I'm Adam Mamwala. I'm in Boston. And who's the other one?
The other one. Who is the other one? The other one's Kevin McCaffrey. I'm in Elmhurst, still trying to figure out who I am. But I'm in Elmhurst, Illinois right now, so a little closer to a home game for this part of the away
Exactly,
games.
just in time for the Cubs to not be in Chicago.
Yeah. There was too much star power here. They had to leave, or I had to leave, and they're headed out, I guess. But
exactly.
after a pretty good week, though, ultimately.
I would say I think you'll take a 6-1 homestand just about any day of the week.
Yeah, I think when we were talking last week, we both sort of felt like if you could just get through this week 500-ish or a game over, we'd be happy. And not only 6-1 homestand, like you said, getting the sweep back of the three sweeps in a row between the Cubs and Cardinals, 2 for the good guys, 1 for the bad guys. That's great. And since we spoke last this week, not only were they 6-1, but we added a new player.
Oh, really? Who are you referring to? I didn't even hear about this.
Oh yeah. The Craig Kimbrel, who I'm looking it up here. It says he's been the best closer in baseball for most of the past decade, and the Cubs signed him for just money. Just money.
How about that?
Yeah. They just had to pay him not quite market value probably for 3 years, and so now they have a closer.
Hell fucking yeah.
Yeah. That was I saw we'd heard a little bit about the Cubs possibly being in on Kimbrel, and I feel like it started to heat up a little last week. I mean, we talked about it a little bit on last week's podcast, like, hey, go fucking sign Craig Kimbrel now that the draft is over, so the Cubs wouldn't have to give up their second round pick or whatever. And now, then they just friggin' did it. So it was a surprising alert to get on the phone.
Oh, it was great. I mean, my question for you would be, like, to what extent does this signing make up for the non-existent off-season moves?
Right. Well, I think it's hard to say make up for, because the games there have been games banked. The Cubs have lost games they would have won had they signed Kimbrel. But if we had gone into the off season and we knew the Cubs were coming away with Craig Kimbrel, I think we had hopes for Bryce Harper, obviously, but we would be like, well, they locked down the best closer, the best reliever on the market, and that's good. That was one of the premium names out on the market. I think we would have been much more like, okay, this is a B minus off season,
Right. Was it the white guy with the beard that we wanted? Perhaps not, but he's certainly a good second option.
Yeah, exactly. I really do think it jumps the off season grade from like a D minus to a B minus, I think it was, if not an F, the keeping Hamels was a great move. We thought so at the time, and continues to be great after he just put up a hell of a game this week against the Cardinals. 8 innings, 10 Ks.
Well, two weekends in a row. That game that we were at, he was fantastic. He just got unlucky.
That's true. Yeah, he's had two incredible eighth level games against the Cardinals, who have a good lineup. Basically, Hamels was the main off-season thing, which it didn't feel like an acquisition because it was just keeping him. But besides that, it's Descalzo and 100 borderline major league relievers, I think they signed, and for them to go ahead and get the best reliever who was on the market this offseason, even after, is incredible. And for 3 years, we're looking at 3 years, $43 million roughly, between 43 and 45. But I mean, you would do that I was going to say you would do that deal in a heartbeat. They did not. It was many heartbeats, but there's no way to feel bad about this deal, I don't think.
Well, and again, if that deal had been something that they could have made in the off season, they would have done it. But also because of the kind of bizarre Zobrist situation, like money opened up that wouldn't have been available. But I mean, between signing Kimbrel and also picking up Cargo for nothing, who has looked really good and rejuvenated, and as far as I can tell, both he and Kimbrel seem like awesome dudes, which I am certainly a big proponent of, considering the kinds of players that the Cubs have acquired at various times over the past few years that make you just feel gross rooting for them.
Right.
So I don't know if you watched the Kimbrel press conference, but I watched the whole thing. It was like a half-hour thing. He seems like the best.
Yeah, I caught the second half of it, and it's one of those things where Craig Kimbrel's been, a star basically since he came into the league. His second year in the league, so he came into the majors in 2010, and 2011 was his second year in the league, and he was an all-star closer who finished top 10 in the Cy Young. He's been that good basically since 2011, but it's one of those things where you realize, oh man, I've known the name Craig Kimbrel. I've been very annoyed when he came in to close the games against my team, but then he starts talking. It's like, have I ever heard this guy talk before? I think maybe I haven't.
I felt the same way. Yeah, I couldn't pinpoint a specific time where I would have heard him talk, and I guess maybe that's just kind of like a pitcher thing, or like, even after a big win, usually the closer is not the guy who gets interviewed.
Right.
But yeah, I totally agree. And, yeah, man, I mean, I think it would be foolish for any of us to think that Morrow is going to come back, but in a world where he, like even by August or September was somehow ready to come back, imagine that kind of bullpen. And this is not even considering who the Cubs might pick up at the deadline, but some sort of combination of like, Strop and Cishek in the 7th, and then, Morrow and Kimbrel. That's insane.
Yeah, it goes from being almost the weakest part of the team to, a top 5 bullpen probably in baseball if you do that.
Right.
You'd say the Yankees still have that crazy bullpen, but beyond that, the Cubs would be in discussion for the next most dominant back end. And it's a big change. And I think, like you said, you can't count on Morrow at all. But holy shit, yeah, getting Morrow and Kimbrel at the back of there would be insane. And it's still going to be a couple of weeks till Kimbrel comes up. And we've seen in recent years, like when Greg Holland signed late in the off season, basically signed an opening day and then came back and did not have it at all. But that's not a 1-to-1 comparison because Greg Holland is not Craig Kimbrel. So
yeah, and I don't know if you saw any of his bullpen session. And I know that it seems like the mic is pretty loud in the Cubs bullpen, but that glove was popping pretty hard.
Love it. Yeah. Do you remember anything in particular that struck you during the press conference?
I think my favorite thing that he said was that, like, they asked him about when he thought he would be ready, and he said something along the lines of like, well, as soon as possible, hopefully, but like the priority here is not to get to the team as fast as possible. The priority is to be healthy and ready to make it through the end of October. Yeah.
And I am, it could hopefully end up being a blessing that he has had this much rest. Hopefully that means, you're getting him really fresh for the rest of the abbreviated season, and he's always been a guy. Kimbrel's not a reliever who you're going to have do the 2-inning save thing, He's a 1-inning guy, comes in, blows it out. So he's not even going to end up throwing that many innings this year. You look at his baseball reference page, and he's basically been between, somewhere between 59 innings and 67. That's roughly where he's been. So, you take about 20 innings off that. This guy's not throwing a lot of innings this year, but he is going to throw very important innings and hopefully a lot of them in October. And one thing he also said during the news, the introductory press conference with IBAG was that he specifically obviously wanted to go to a winner, and a winner wouldn't, I don't think anyone beyond a contender would be interested in a Kimbrel level contract for a closer, but he wanted to go somewhere where the atmosphere was elite, basically, talking about fans and the excitement in the ballpark.
Sorry, Tampa.
What's that?
I said sorry, Tampa.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, Tampa was not cutting it the stadium where it looks like a couple of lights are just always out, the sort of unfinished basement of the major league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also the same.
Yeah.
I feel like the field is the same surface as most unfinished basements, just like a thin layer of felt over concrete.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was cool that Kimbrel was, that is a specific thing he was into. And Jason Hayward called him. They knew each other from Atlanta days, and Hayward told him, "You deserve to play in Chicago," which I thought was a cool quote. Yeah. And
dude, I love Hayward, man.
Oh, he's so great. And he's and it's great to hear. And obviously Hayward, he's biased. He's here. But Hayward, a guy who had struggles and struggles a little bit with the fans weren't psyched about Hayward's first couple of disappointing years, but offensively. But to hear him talking about Chicago as a great place to play is awesome.
Totally. And to your point earlier about this maybe being like a blessing in disguise for Kimbrel, only time will tell if he is. Hopefully he's not. I mean, to be like Greg Holland was for the Cardinals would be historically bad, but.
Right.
Obviously Brandon Morrow is a guy who his whole career has had a litany of injuries, but, the Cubs signed him in an off season after he had pitched a ton in the playoffs and pitched all the way to November. And how did that turn out? And Kimbrel is a guy who's coming off a long run in October, November. And the fact that he has not had to pitch in games for the first 2 months of the season, I don't see that as being a bad thing necessarily, and it certainly sounds like he's worked his ass off to stay in shape. So, I mean, it's a really good signing, and the other thing that's cool about it is that it makes sense in terms of him being here this year and then the next 2 years since Morrow is gone after this year anyway. But it also speaks to the faith in this group to make a few more runs at it.
Yeah, this basically Craig Kimbrel. You're looking at Craig Kimbrel as your closer for the rest of this specific window, and hopefully, the window just stays open and you're able to, to keep recharging the team. But with the current core players, the window really goes for about the next 2-3 years, and Kimbrel is locked up throughout that. And having a Kimbrel, fingers crossed, he's as good as he has been. Fingers crossed he stays healthy. But, man, it would be really nice to not have to trade prospects for a closer every single deadline,
Oh, absolutely. And when I think about it, it's the Cubs teams that we watched for most of our lives were just bad in general. But when you look at the closer position specifically, as much as this window makes up for so much just inherently, we have had to sit there and watch even the good closers being like Joe Borowski, having to watch Al Fonseca and Kevin Gregg and LaTroy Hawkins and all of these people over the years. And now over the past few years to be able to watch guys like Chapman and Wade Davis and Kimbrel on a regular basis, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Kenley Jensen, it's those are the premier closers in the game. And
I would certainly rather have Kimbrel than Jansen right now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that's the thing too. So Kimbrel he was shaky in the playoffs last year, and I think that's what a lot of people who are worried about him being in decline remember the playoffs specifically. And Chris Sale ended up closing the World Series winning game, not Craig Kimbrel. But this is a guy who has been basically closer healthy for the most part since 2010. He's pitched, he hasn't missed a significant amount of time. And it's possible he just had a little bit of a blip in his age 30 year. He's not super old, so this is his age 31 season. And you look at the numbers he put up last year, even if it was declining, the guy had, he had a 2.74 ERA last year.
And that's considered a down year for him.
Yeah, exactly, because the year before he had a 1.43, but the year before that he had a 3.4. So really, 2016 was his roughest year, and every other year, and besides that, he has more years with ERAs that begin with the number 1 than all the other numbers combined. And last year, 2.74 ERA, the fifth was up at 3.13, but his WHIP was under 1, as it is most of the time. It was just a touch under 1, and he was still striking out 13.9 per 9 innings last year. That was his, that was his lowest number in a few years. But Man, that doesn't look like too steep a decline to me.
No, not at all. And I think, I don't know if you heard this part of the press conference, but he also seemed like to have a pretty mature and measured response to people asking about his postseason struggles, which is like, yeah, you know what, I didn't pitch as well as I know that I'm capable of and that I would have liked, but I didn't cost us any games.
Yeah, right. They didn't. Yeah, exactly. I did hear him say that. Where he's like, they did none of the tough innings he had resulted in a loss. You know. I also think it was real fun. It was fun. I don't know if you saw how Kyle Schwarber told teammates that Kimbrel had been signed.
I did hear that. I think I heard that after the game last night. But tell people if they haven't heard this story yet.
Yeah, basically, the guys were out on the field, and Schwarber was, I think, coming out late, so he had just seen the news come across the TV, and then Schwarber basically went out into the outfield, and then basically looked at the other players and imitated the Craig Kimbrel sort of, hunched like a condor sort of arm swing that he has out to the side before he pitches. So he basically did a Craig Kimbrel impression to announce the signing to the teammates, which is awesome.
It's awesome. And also, like, we tweeted this, but if you didn't already love Pedro Strop enough, the way that he reacts to the closer being signed of that caliber is awesome. The quote was, when they asked him about the signing, Strop said, "He's awesome. You're bringing in, if he's not the best, he's one of the best closers in the game. Hopefully he's in good shape so he can help us win another World Series. He's one of my favorites." And like, that's not surprising because we know the kind of person that Strop is, but it's still awesome when you see something like that. And I think from what I recall, I remember Rondon, if not publicly saying it, like, I feel like he was pretty cool about them getting Chapman. I could be wrong on my memory of that, but like, it speaks to the kind of atmosphere the Cubs have created that like, it's not like a, Papelbon replacing Drew Storen thing and now he's going to be broken forever sort of situation.
Yeah, and Strop just seems, he just seems like such a unique personality. He really is one of the leaders on this team, one of the leaders in that bullpen, and he has been one of the all-time elite relievers in Chicago Cubs history without ever really having an extended stretch as the closer. He really does not, he doesn't shy away from the biggest moments. He will close out a big game, as he did this week, with one pitch, I think, to finish the sweep against the Cardinals.
You know what? It was about the most effort that somebody could exert throwing one pitch. Like, throwing the one pitch, sprinting to first, catching the ball, celebrating vigorously. Like, I'm all for it.
Yeah, he really made that visit count. And, he's a guy who, it seems like all the guys on this team right now, they do seem just, these are guys who it's corny. It sounds like a corny sports radio thing, but they really do just want to win. Like, these guys are excited about winning, and it's really cool to see, a bunch of major league stars be excited about getting another major league star,
Right. And I think in the same way that we've said many times, like, we were so relieved after 2016 that we still cared. I think I feel the same way watching how much these guys care. And I guess that's probably a silly thing to say because they're professional athletes, and of course they do, but it's like they clearly really care about winning, and that's what they want to do.
And I'm really, I'm really enjoying how this team has been coming together. As if the off season wasn't great, which it wasn't, the work that the front office has been doing during the season, I think, has been very good. As you said, adding Cargo last week for nothing, adding Kimbrel for just money and not even a real ton of it. The kinds of guys they are, they're veterans who've been through it a lot in the biggest pressurized stages. It's a cool couple of elements to add to that clubhouse, I think.
Oh, totally. And at the risk of being insensitive, do you think it would be appropriate for Kimbrel's entrance music to be Benny by Juliana Zobris?
Oh man, just as a tip of the hat, I thank you for the money.
Yeah.
Oh man, God. And I will say, also, could you imagine a less intimidating closer song?
Seriously.
Than fucking Benny. One thing I did like that was maybe a little surprising, and who knows, Theo might know that Ben is for sure not coming back. But Theo but I don't know if your Theo comment about it saying that this is, he basically, without saying it exactly, alluded to the fact that, some money became available, whatever, but he said that the minute Ben wants to come back, if he wants to, there is no problem with that. They would love to have him.
And I hope he does, and if not this year, it would be cool to see him, because this is his last year, right, under contract?
Yes.
So it would be cool to see him sign, a 1-year deal next year so that he doesn't have to, have what has been an amazing career end this way.
Yeah, in this really strange and mysterious way. That the last time a career ended like this that I can think of, it was Ryan Sandberg, and then he did end up coming back again after that. But just the leading to the end. Yeah. Right,
and frankly, I have a lot of respect for it because there's still this macho attitude in sports where someone like Mike Francesa or whatever idiot you listen to on the radio will shit on somebody for taking one day of paternity leave, and as if that's some crime against humanity to miss one game out of 162 to be there for your child to be born. So I feel like it's pretty cool
on the radio. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's admirable. I think that Zobrist has made that decision, and hopefully. I have every expectation that he's not listening to this, but if you are, Ben, sorry for the joke, and we hope you're well.
I think Ben's cool with it. He knows where we're coming from, but it would be really great to add Ben Zobrist back to this roster for one more run for him, too.
Yeah, and as far as the last week of games is concerned, obviously we both. We always want the Cubs to win, but I don't know if it was me or you or whoever it was, but last week we mentioned specifically the Cubs had been coming off of that sweep in St. Louis and were 2-8 in their last 10 games, and it felt very reminiscent of the way they began the season before they came home for the first time, and this week played out largely the same way, which is exactly what we wanted. And I don't know what their home record is. I'd have to look at the standings, but it's pretty damn good, I have to think. The Cubs, just based on my memory, I feel like they've been extremely good at home. Yeah, I'm looking right now actually. The Cubs are 13-16 on the road, and they are 24-11 at home.
Oh man, yeah, that's a starker difference than I anticipated even. But yeah, you're right.
So other than the Dodgers, who have an almost insane 25-7 home record. The Cubs have the best home record in the NL.
That's great. Yeah, it's and as you said, it felt important to turn it around pretty quick and not let that's struggling weekend in St. Louis and really the week before that stretch any longer. This week. No, I was just going to say, I guess the important thing now is for the Cubs to finally be the team to win a road game in the Cubs-Cardinals matchup. That would be nice. Yeah, yes, break the string. That would be great. Also, the one other thing this week, I'm enjoying Kyle Schwarber heating up a little bit.
I got to say, good week for Kyles in general. Schwarber looks great, and Hendricks continues to be unbelievable. Yeah,
Hendricks is an ace, and Schwarber in take two at the leadoff spot has been killing it. He was a huge force in that game where John Lester gave up 4 runs immediately, and you had that feeling against the Cardinals, and then Schwarber powered that comeback, and Lester really locked it down the rest of the game to shut him down. I think the Cubs put up 9 in that game, but
Yeah, that was fantastic because I was not watching that game live, and I checked my phone 20 minutes after it started, and you see that 4 spot up there, and you're like, oh boy. But it also, besides the Cubs offense being great, it speaks to what a fucking gamer John Lester is.
Oh my God.
There is no way after that first inning you think he's going to go 6 innings and give up nothing else the rest of the way, and that is exactly who he is.
BDJ. BDJ energy.
Wait, what does that mean?
Big Dick John.
Oh, Big Dick John.
Yep, it's gone around on Twitter a little bit. By the way, follow us on Twitter @AwayGamesPod and on Instagram @AwayGamesPod. But yeah, he's got that energy. Lester just, he has real fuck you energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On that mound. Pissed off about giving up those 4 runs and gave up absolutely nothing for us to win.
I have to say, no disrespect, but I feel like John Lackey had real like small dick energy. Like
no,
seemed like he was really had a real chip on his shoulder that you couldn't explain.
Right, exactly. Just like weirdly pissed off all the time, not in a way that always helps, you know. Also, I feel like Lackey was a big blaming other people for on the field for his problem. That's a tiny dick move, I'll say. Yeah.
Oh man!
And as we said, Ben Zobrist would be cool about us joking around. John Lackey would try to fight us if he heard this, but there is no way John Lackey knows how to get a podcast. There's no way.
No, absolutely
not. Yeah.
Unless there's just audio playing in every cowboy hat, I don't think he really has access to it.
Lackey just has a Bluetooth cowboy hat against all odds. It's really, really hooked up.
You know what? Actually, that's not that far off because I don't know if you watched that the thing that the Cubs YouTube channel put up that was like the off-season series, but there was the one with John Lester where he was just like hunting the whole time. And my favorite part of it was that he had Swarovski binoculars, which is like the ultimate like pro athlete who's still like a man's man but still has like nice shit sort of move.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that is a really funny combination.
He's got like Gucci camouflage on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he should have his own line of that kind of shit.
He might as well. And speaking of people like Lackey who are pitchers who get mad for no reason, this was a fun non-Cubs baseball thing. Did you happen to see the Bumgarner-Muncy situation yesterday?
I sure did. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man, that's got to be the quote of the year. So Muncy went yard off of Bumgarner, and he didn't even watch it that long. He like put the bat down and maybe took like 2 steps before he started running. And because Mad Bum is who he is, and he's a good old Texas boy, he got very upset at it and was chirping at Muncy as he rounded the bases. And Muncy gave him kind of a like, you know, come and get some sort of gesture. And then after the game was interviewed, and I believe the quote was like, if he doesn't like me watching it, then he can go get the ball out of the sea.
Yeah, but you can go fish the ball out of the ocean or whatever.
Right.
Which is great. Perfect,
That's
quick,
so funny.
demeaning. Yeah, super funny. Well done by Muncy. And I do find Madison Bumgarner annoying. But he afterwards he was kind of laughing about it, and he did say,
yeah.
I think he said it's hard to say with a straight face, but he's like, you know, if they're, I think if you're going to let them be them, you got to let me be me. But, you know, like, that's how I show emotion. Like, yeah, he's got a point.
That's funny.
That is Bumgarner being Bumgarner. It's just being pissed off about literally everything.
Can you imagine if Bumgarner gave up a home run and there was like why am I forgetting his name? The dude on the White Sox who had that, who flipped his bat and everyone freaked out.
Oh,
why am I forgetting his name? Tim Anderson, yeah. If it was that level bat flip, I feel like Bumgarner would like actually go tackle someone.
Oh man, that would be great. That is now I now have a reason to watch if it ever happens a San Francisco Giants Chicago White Sox interleague game. That would be the ideal combination. Was it the like immovable force meets the something object?
Right.
I forget.
Our boy Eloy hit a home run, I think 471 feet yesterday. So if he does that off Mad Bum, there could be a little bat flip involved there too. Oh
man, yeah, would love to see it. That's that was a very fun non-Cub story this week.
Totally.
Yeah.
But speaking of Schwarber, what have you seen from him that? Like, because they talked to Madden about it, and he just said, like, I'm just loving his approach at the plate, and I like how he looks up there, which is like a very kind of like vague baseball thing to say. But like, are you seeing anything that he's doing specifically that is working?
I feel like I've seen him. I feel like he's cut down the swing a little bit. I feel like he's taken not the full Rizzo 2-strike approach, but I've seen him. But it seems like he's cut the swing down when he is behind in the count. And one of the homers he hit was like that, was a choppy little, almost protect swing that he took right over the wall the other day. And Schwarber is strong enough and has the bat speed to do that. So I think I'm really enjoying seeing that. And then obviously...
No, I was just going to say, as far as that home run is concerned, assuming it's the one that I think you're talking about, like that was after I think an 11 pitch at bat against the Cardinals where he kept fouling balls off. That was like one of the best at bats I've seen from any Cub this season. And when he hit that, that was like a Giancarlo Stanton-esque, like, oh, that's like a single that just didn't come down until it was in the bleachers.
Right, exactly. And earlier this year, Schwarber had the 13 pitch at bat and then went oppo for a homer in Washington, I think. And those are things that, Schwarber does see a ton of pitches. He's one of the league leaders in seeing pitches, but that's because, he goes deep in the count and he takes a lot of walks. He strikes out a lot. But I feel like you wouldn't see Schwarber fouling off a lot of pitches extending an at bat until this year. I mean, he takes a lot of close third strikes. Obviously that's been a big problem for him, but I think him chopping down on that 2-strike swing and just making contact, fouling off pitches. See, I'd have to dive deeper into the stats, but it seems like that is a little new.
I would tend to agree. So I don't know if Rizzo's talked to him or if it's a result of something else, but whatever it is, I hope he keeps doing it because at least for this week, he's looked very good, and I feel like him in the leadoff spot playing the way he's playing is perfect right now.
It's great. It's a big help, and I'm just such a believer in Kyle Schwarber's potential to really take it a whole other level up, and he's such a great guy, so it's fun to see him doing that.
Yeah, totally. So basically, obviously great stretch over the last week at home. But now we are coming up on basically a repeat of 2 weeks ago where you look at the schedule and it's, 3 games at Houston, 3 games at St. Louis, and you're a little worried about that. The Cubs now are gone for 7 games, 3 at Colorado, which is always an adventure, and then 4 at the Dodgers. So I think if there was ever a time where if there's a scenario where the Cubs can take 2 out of 3 in Colorado and split 4 games against the Dodgers, I would 100% take that.
I would too, and I kind of like their chances to do it. We're probably going to see a little bit of the bullpen turnover since those Colorado games can get wacky, and you can really end up burning through a lot of guys. But some good news down in Iowa. So Xavier Cedeno is throwing again, and Tony Barnett, one of the off-season signings, is now throwing down there. So that is news, and we might see a little more of that bullpen churn in and after that Colorado week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm just looking at the matchups here upcoming. If you are a fan of lefties, Thursday, I feel like a Stefan. If you like lefties, do I have the game for you? Thursday in Los Angeles is a Lester Kershaw matchup, which is pretty cool.
Beautiful. Yeah, two possible Hall of Famers going at each other.
This is always that week where if you live on the East Coast like we do, if a game goes to extra innings, you're like, this is just getting ridiculous at this point. Like, am I really going to be up till 3 a.m. watching this?
Right. Yeah.
And the answer is yes, but I won't be happy about it.
Yes, exactly. The East Coast starts of, when it's like a 10:05 p.m. start for us.
Right. But yeah, let's hopefully get through this week. And even if it's just treading water and coming back, 4-3 or 3-4, like so be it, because then you get 2 at home against the White Sox, 4 at home against the Mets, and another 4 at home against the Braves. So that's not easy, but you get a 10-game homestand, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, no, and I am looking forward to seeing the Cubs go. And I mean, I'm saying that now. It could be a messy weekend, but seeing them go against the Dodgers, who I think, if you're looking at it right now, I think that is the NLCS matchup you would expect for the third time in 4 years. Those two teams seem to be, I think, the 2 premier teams in the National League right now. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's tough because the Cubs right now are percentage points ahead of the Brewers, but basically tied.
Right.
Brewers home to the pettiest Twitter account in all of baseball, perhaps all of sports.
And just unfunny.
Like almost ridiculously so. Yeah, it's it's wild.
Yeah.
But,
and the Rockies, one of the best, by the way. Rockies have a great social media account. And so and the Brewers are just like petty, unfunny, mean dickheads. It's just it's bad.
There's a real small dick energy coming from Brewers Twitter.
there sure is. Is John Mackey running that Twitter? It's possible.
if he's figured out how to use Twitter, he almost certainly is running the Brewers account.
That is true. Yeah, that's a good fit.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I think, we came into the season thinking that it would be a tight one in the Central, and it's certainly looking that way. It's kind of hard to tell what the Cardinals are at this point because, I mean, Goldschmidt has not really been Goldschmidt yet, so I feel like once that starts happening, and then depending on if they make any moves, it kind of remains to be seen. But you just have to hope that the Cubs can win the division because the prospect of getting knocked out in a one-game wild card, you can't assume the playoffs, but in the scenario where they make the playoffs, to be in that one-game wild card again would be horrible.
Yeah, no, you gotta win this division, and it seems like they're doing the things they need to do that right now. And I believe this should be the best team in the division. They are currently by the numbers, and they should get better. But you can keep saying the Brewers should come back to earth. Christian Yelich shouldn't have 23 home runs right now, whatever, but he does, and the Brewers keep playing well, so they're gonna hang in there. But but I like the additions. I like what the roster looks like right now.
I'm all about it, and whether we all just went crazy last year or whatever the deal was, like, I feel so much better about this team right now than I felt about last year's team at any point, even though they won 95 games.
Yeah, same. No, I agree.
So
cool. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, awaygamespodcast@gmail.com. If you want to weigh in on anything, talk shit to us. John Lackey, if you want to tell us how big Yo Dick is, that's where you can holler at us. And anything else before we go?
I think not. Let's make it through this West Coast swing and remain mostly intact.
Sweet. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.